There is a wonderful scene in the movie Fiddler on the Roof. Tavia, this wise old Russian peasant, comes walking into the courtyard and two men are arguing. And he listens to the one guy and he says, "You're right." And he listens to the second guy and he says, "You're right." And the third guy says, "They can't both be right." And Tavia says, "You're right too." And that's a great lesson in objectivity. To be able to see things as they really are also means to recognize that things usually are not in a crisp black or white. They're usually in some sort of a muddy gray. You're right, you're right, you're right too. I'm Joe Tye, CEO of Values Coach, and your coach for this course on the 12 core action values. And today we're talking about the second cornerstone of core action value number 3, awareness, which is objectivity. And my definition of objectivity, being objective, is this: to be able to see the world as it really is, not as it used to be, not as you wish it would be, not as you fear it might become, but as it really is. Let's look a little deeper. To see the world as it used to be is to live in the past. And there are an awful lot of people who do that. They're living in the good old days. They resist future change. They don't want to get on board with the new technology. They can't understand the young people of today. They become conservative and then they become reactionary. That is a formula for stagnation, both at a personal and a company and a corporate level. When the personal computer came along, DEC is a company that is no more, the CEO of DEC said, "Oh, that's a fad. It'll never catch on." And because he was living in the past, seeing the world as it used to be, the company disappeared. To see the world as it is, not as you wish it were. That is to fall into the trap of wishful thinking and denial, and an awful lot of people have fallen into that trap in recent years, haven't they? "Oh, I can take on this mortgage with no down payment, adjustable rate," not reading the fine print, not thinking clearly about their finances, not anticipating that maybe housing prices don't always go up. And they got into this seeing the world as they wish it would be, not as it really is. And to see the world as you fear it might become, you run the risk of paralysis, of putting yourself in a prison of your own making, being paralyzed by anxiety, fear, dread, worry. But to see things as they really are, to see your opportunities as they really are, to see your strengths for what they really are. And let me tell you this, one of the great truths: just because you believe something doesn't make it true. And just because you don't believe something doesn't make it false. There is an incredible need for us to go back to humility, one of the cornerstones we talked about for core action value number 2, integrity. And to see the world as it really is requires that level of integrity. On the other hand, to be so committed to your beliefs that you keep believing them even when there is sufficient evidence that you should know they're not true, is to become what Eric Hoffer called the true believer. And if you've read that book, it's truly frightening. The mental manipulation that the true believer has to make in order to hang on to beliefs that she should know just aren't true anymore. Now, Marshall Goldsmith, one of the top executive coaches in America, wrote a book that you really ought to read if you're a leader. And the title of the book is "What Got You Here Won't Get You There." And in that book, Goldsmith says one of the first things he does before he starts working with an executive is he makes them do a 360 evaluation. In other words, everybody who works around that person evaluates that person on the basis of leadership ability, communication skills, personality, how easy to get along, team playing, things like that. And when I had it done for me, it was an amazing experience. In fact, I remember going through my results and I get to listening, and I'd always prided myself on being a great listener. I get to that, and on a scale of 1 to 10, 60 people gave me a 3. Someone's wrong, right? And my first reaction was the true believer. What's wrong with them? I'm a great listener. And it took me a while to really figure out, to accept that I was not a very good listener at all. And I've done two things as a result. One, I've really worked hard to try to become a better listener. And in the workbook, one of the exercises I give you is to play the game of reporter. That's one of the things I do to try to be a better listener. And the second is, I've encouraged you in the past to play on your strengths. I now have a job where I get to do all the talking. And I don't have to worry about that weakness. And one of the exercises that I give you in the workbook, and that's something that I'm going to, it takes a lot of courage, but I'm going to encourage you to do. And that is, if you're not in an organization that does 360s, do it on your own. And in the workbook, I tell you how. But those 5 questions you ask other people, give them an envelope, ask them to be anonymous, ask them to send it back to you. It will be an incredible eye-opener. It will help you see yourself and your position in the world much more objectively. See you next time.